Hello there, and welcome to episode 5 of my Lancastrians and Yorkists vlog. This time we're going to be talking about Henry V and the conquest of France, which is depth topic 2, starting 1413 through to 1421. And our focus in this episode is on the question the exam would ask, which is what was the significance of renewing the war with France, and in particular focusing in on those reasons that Henry V chose to renew the war. Now, as all good exam questions are, this one is a question with multiple answers, and ultimately we don't really know what the main reason was, and perhaps even Henry V himself wouldn't know. There's a multitude of different factors, but there are broadly, I would say, 4 that you want to focus in on. And the first one is that, quite simply, Henry V was a warrior king. This is about his personality. Henry was 26 when he became king, and he already had extensive military experience fighting and leading armies in Wales, albeit in a different kind of war than the 100 Years' War against the guerrilla armies of Owain Glyndŵr. He also had quite a lot of political experience, especially since 1406, when Parliament had got him involved in running the country, and he had helped to get a grip on England's finances, although it should be noted that he then fell out with Henry IV, his father, 1411, 1412, before some final reconciliation and blessing as being heir on his deathbed in March 1413. The chronicler, Thomas Walsingham, said it was always Henry V's intention to go to war against France because he felt that that's what he had been chosen by God to do. And so his Henry V's personality, I think, is a big factor in him renewing the war with France. Second reason is the situation in the 100 Years' War. This 100 Years' War started back in 1337, but for some years there'd been relative peace because of the policy of Richard II, and then there had been some rumblings under Henry IV, but he had had other things to focus on mainly. But we've noted in previous episodes the piracy in the Channel, some raids, some naval raids by the French on the south coast, some skirmishing and low-level fighting in Aquitaine, which had led to some English territorial losses, all of which Henry V was keen to overcome. Henry V claimed, in fact, that England should have all the territory that had been agreed in the 1360 Treaty of Bretigny. Bretigny is spelled Bretigny. All of the treaty agreed in that returned to England. So he was kind of felt himself, he was fighting for justice there. And he also offered to marry Catherine of Valois, the daughter of Charles VI, very kindly, to unite the two thrones, but this was rejected famously by the French, who sent Henry V some tennis balls, which was an insult, probably alluding to Henry V's youth, and he should still be playing with toys, that kind of thing. So the situation in the 100 Years' War was definitely part of the motivation there, but this kind of fits in, I would say, with the personality and Henry V's desire to be that warrior king who restored England to their God-given position of greatness that he felt was his right. Thirdly, the situation in England was a big factor in Henry being able to renew the war properly with France. We already have mentioned, I think, that the rebellion in Wales, Owain Glyndŵr's rebellion, had ended around 1415. And there was some conciliation with the Welsh. Some rebels were pardoned, and in fact a good amount end up in Henry V's army going to France. There had also been the rehabilitation of the Percy family. You remember Hotspur's rebellion in 1403, and then in 1408 Henry Percy had led a short-lived rebellion against Henry IV. The heir to the Hotspur lands was freed from where he was being held in prison in Scotland, and he was given his lands and family title of Northumberland, and this was a way of keeping the North pacified, I guess. James I, King of Scotland, was under lock and key safely in England and had been since 1406, and that meant there was no threat from Scotland. And Henry V managed to sort out a 10-year truce with Brittany. I know that's not in England, but Brittany on the northwest coast of France in 1414, and that meant that if Henry attacked the northeast of France, or Normandy in the northeast, then he wasn't going to get anything coming in from his eastern right flank as he attacked it. And in 1414, Parliament supported Henry V in his claims to the French throne that he made, and when that diplomacy failed, there was preparation for invasion. One more thing should be mentioned here, and that is the 1415 Southampton plot. This isn't probably part of the reason that Henry V felt confident to go to war against the French, but it does get sorted out before he goes, which is handy for him. The Southampton plot was a threesome: Earl of Cambridge, Baron Scrope, nephew of Richard Scrope, he of Scrope's rebellion against Henry IV, and Sir Thomas Grey, that's Grey, had plotted to kill Henry V and put Edmund Mortimer on the throne instead. Edmund Mortimer, in some eyes, was the rightful heir and would have been on the throne had Henry IV not usurped and Richard II had died, yada yada yada. But they seem to have been motivated, Cambridge Scrope and Sir Thomas Grey, by feelings that Henry V had not properly rewarded them for their service and their loyalty. But in fact, the plot was revealed by Edmund Mortimer himself, which it wasn't a great time for their plotting technique. Mortimer either was kind of playing double agent or possibly just bottled it and told Henry V. He was let off, but the other three were all executed. So the situation in England is definitely a big reason that allows Henry V to go gallivanting off abroad, because it's stable and there's no kind of threat to him from nobility or from Wales or Scotland. All is kind of peaceful and calm. But remember that partly this situation has been contrived by Henry himself and kind of other factors. So I would say there he is partly fortunate and partly also strategic in creating this situation. And then fourthly, the situation in France meant that Henry V felt able to commit to the war. Charles VI was King of France at this time, and he had been since 1380, but Charles V had quite severe periodic mental health problems, and that's kind of putting it slightly mildly, really. He had mental breakdowns at various points, which led to infighting amongst the power rivals in the French court, in particular between the Armagnacs, who supported the Dauphin, the Duke of Orleans. These were a group of people. The Dauphin is the French heir, Charles. The Dauphin is spelled Dauphin. They were bankrolled by the Duke of Armagnac. Armagnac is Armagnac. So this is one kind of side in the French court, and they are basically, when Charles VI is incapacitated, they are looking to take control of the situation and to dominate policy. On the other side, the Queen Isabella, who is backed by the Burgundians, Duke of Burgundy and his friends, and they back Isabella mostly out of commercial interest, and because they don't want their lands to be overrun by the Dauphin and his friends. This squabbling reached a head in 1407 when John the Fearless, Duke of Burgundy, had Louis, the Duke of Orleans, assassinated, and the situation was still very tense in 1415, as we'll see in the next episode. This was an opportunity that could have been exploited by any English king, but I guess the question is, would other English kings have exploited it? And it's fair to say that as the situation had been going on since 1407, Henry IV wasn't in a position to exploit it, and Henry V very much is. So I would say that although this is definitely a factor, it's not as important, and that probably for me the most important is Henry V's personality and zeal for war, which means that he takes advantage of a situation which was pretty ideally set up for him. I'm going to keep this one short. That's a nice place to finish it. Next time we'll look at the way that this campaign runs through, and how even the success that Henry V had was kind of double-edged for him. Thanks so much. See you next time.